Ever watched a movie and thought, this could totally be a game? Or yelled at the TV, "You idiots!" Even played out what the movie would be like if the bad guys won instead? Well, today, that all comes true. Welcome to Dune Part 2, all sprawled out on your table, igniting every morsel. Hidden sietches, sandworm thumper calls, dreadnoughts, family atomics, Paul Atreides and Feyd-Rautha, and so much more. If you loved Dune Part 2, then this isn't just a game, it's your next spice-fueled obsession. Bro.
What?
Okay, shh, making too much noise. Here we go. Hey Leets, I'm Pones Jones, hacker turned board game hacker. And today, we're gaming on the movie screen with a Risk game that plays nothing like Risk, on a map that has 0 continents, with a combat system that has nothing to do with comparing dice rolls. It's Dune! Risk style. And if I don't play it soon, I'm gonna start muttering Mentut code and licking the table for spice residue. In this video, we answer these 3 questions. What is this Risk Dune game all about? Is it really an evolutionary step for Risk? And how closely does it follow the Dune Part 2 movie? Oh, and should you get one? Run it. Frank Herbert's Dune in 1965 reshaped sci-fi with its dense world-building, political intrigue, and desert mysticism. The first big-screen attempt was David Lynch's 1984 film, a visually wild, narratively messy cult classic weighted down by its source material. After decades of failed reboots, Denis Villeneuve finally cracked it, with Dune Part 1 in 2021, setting the stage for Dune Part 2 in 2024. Over the years, tabletop games tried to bring Dune's vast universe to the table, but none went the opposite direction. None walked scene by scene through the movie, letting you decide the fate of Arrakis. Until now. So, will you side with Paul Atreides and the Fremen fighters to invade Harkonnen and overthrow its tyrant, Feyd-Rautha? Or will you join Feyd in exterminating the Fremen and gambling your fate against the prophecy itself? Risk Dune, your next movie experience. It's a 2 or 4 player showdown on the burning sands of Arrakis, with 2 distinct paths. Fighters or oppressors. The fighters rally the Fremen and Fedakan elite warriors, while the oppressors command brutal Harkonnen troops and fearsome Sardaukar corps. North faces off against South in a gritty desert war, where the combat system hits hard, like punchy gravy on an already cherry-topped cake. Yes, this cherry-adorned cake may look like Risk, but it plays by none of its rules, starting with the turn structure. Each round, players draw 6 cards and secretly assign 3 as their troop orders for the next 3 turns. Orders are revealed one at a time, allowing multi-option cards to let you pivot mid-flight. It's a wild dynamic, like watching your battle plans buffer in real time. After the 3 are resolved, you draw 3 more, rinse, and repeat. Classic Risk sees large armies endlessly invading new lands around the board. But here, everything's been simplified. In Classic Risk combat, there's 3 attacking versus 2 defending dice. They are compared, and troops are removed. It allows for an army to actually defend itself, but not in Dune. One group of units move, then attacks the adjacent territory. That's it. When combat is declared, the attacking force can assault the adjacent territory with 1 die per attacking unit, to a max of 5. Paul gets 2. So let's say the oppressors are attacking. The 5 dice are dropped, with the potential of 5 dead enemies. Hits can only be dealt if you roll these numbers or higher. Then the attacker decides the kills. But that's not even the half of it. There are many other mechanics that fuel Dune's dynamic gameplay. I'm talking about vision and oppression. But to explain those, we've got to crack open the other side of the board. The second Dune movie's plotlines sprawl across it like a faded timeline. Monumentous events shift the tides of power across the sands. This game closely follows every major scene from Dune Part 2. Gathering Fremen forces, the Emperor arriving, even the hunt for the family atomics. You're dropped right into the movie's plotline, scene by scene, for both sides. simultaneously. Remember the order cards? Well, players use them to advance along their plot track, unlocking key rewards, like Lady Margot, who lets you swap out your orders, or scramble your opponents, or thumpers that summon a giant sandworm to wipe a territory clean, or worm sign spotters that ferry oppressor units back to the capital before a sandworm strikes, or something worse, the Dreadnought, a terrifying ship built to wipe sietches off the map, cutting off the fighter's abilities to auto-spawn lost units, and afterward, it can obliterate any territory it targets. OP horrifyingness. But the most pivotal moment, Paul accepting his destiny as the Muad'Dib, enabling the fighters to storm Rakeen and overthrow Feyd-Rautha. And overthrow Feyd-Rautha. Unless, of course, the oppressors eliminate every last fighter, including Paul, before that moment arrives. Then Arrakis falls. It's the entire film on your table, leading to the final scene where you get to decide, often by a final few last tense rolls of the dice. But everything is definitely not how it appears. This game has a few teeny tiny issues. I found them. I'm a hacker. Remember? The lid and rules are excessively aesthetically pleasing. They punch your retinas out of your vision holes and drown your dopamine circuits with movie delights. But then you get to the board. The map is drab and meh. The territory lines make little sense, with the north feeling sketched onto the board. The plotline tracks, while necessary, feel rather copy and pasty. The colors go from green for the fighters to red for the oppressors. And for some reason, the Fremen units are red, and the oppressors are blue. Why? Just why? Why? One sietch rests elevated on the board seam, which the devs totally knew was going to happen. And two of the sietches go slightly past the planet territory lines, making them adjacent to a new territory. It's so slight that it feels like a mistake. On the vision track, you eventually unlock Gurney Halleck, who is mandated to follow, like a puppy dog, Paul around everywhere. However, there's no rules covering what happens if Paul is dead, or if he dies with Gurney. Finding the Family Atomics, a mandatory quest where Paul finds and secures nukes he never gets to use, making this explosion token feel rather pointless and odd. And if Paul dies before completing the quest, you just get to skip it. So then why bother doing it at all? Just kamikaze Paul in for some kills and bypass the mandatory clunky turn-wasting quest. Oh, here's a funny one. If Paul is dead, then it feels kinda odd that the next plot point says he finally accepts his destiny. Ooh. Oh, did you know that Paul gets infinite respawns during the early game? Plot armor much? So I think Paul should have been a figurehead instead of being an actual unit on the game board. All these plot issues would be avoided. The combat system, I don't hate that you're only ever attacking, and the dice basically decide who gets killed. But the holes start to appear when attacking the heroes, Paul or Feyd, as any dice that lands a 6 defeats either of them. Feels rather sniper potshottery. I think a single colored die should be cast, hoping for a 6, when deciding the fate of a hero. The rules state that when a sandworm is called, you roll 2 dice, trying to get a 5 or a 6, but on page 11, it says you can roll 3. Whoopsie. Page 5 is all goofed up. The Atomics token explosion is horizontally flipped, and there is one more card than exists in the actual deck. Oh, and the 4-player setup page goofs this like crazy. So far, I've shown you what this Dune Risk game is all about, if it really is a revolutionary step in Risk, and how closely it follows the Dune Part 2 movie. So the only question left is, should you get one? Yes, you're right. The game's setup and combat closely resembles Risk Star Wars that was released a little while back. And yes, there's a few plotline hiccups that involve Paul, and the map is fairly meh. But all of those can be forgiven. See, this game was made for one type of person, a Dune movie megafan. And if you're one of those, kinda like me, then this game will override your conscious inputs, consuming your cognition like a mentat on spice. You'll be incapable of ever watching Dune without playing this game immediately after. But what if instead of the Dune universe, Risk took a stab at the Warhammer 40k universe? Clutch the family pearls, because in this next video, I list out every heinous injustice Risk thrust on Warhammer 40k. The betrayal is so palpable, it's like they did it on purpose.